as usual. Hi, everybody. I'm Josh Beard. As per the usual, he is Shaun Bajani, and this is Wasted Talent. All right, it's been a great show. See you guys later. We just wanted to go live for 30 seconds to let you know that we're still live. No, we'll actually talk about some sports tonight. I want to talk about the Astros cheating scandal first, or not first, but the longest. It's like the Astros cheating scandal is going to be like the sixth man of the year of topics for us. Where like I want to get the Texans talk over quickly because they play tomorrow night. But I really honestly don't have a ton to say about the Astros cheating, but I don't think many people are going to like what I have to say about the Astros cheating. So we'll see how that goes. We're going to dive into a little bit of Rockets and NBA talk as well. But we're going to start off with Texans talk because the Texans laid a huge ass shitty egg the other night. Or the other day. Like, what a travesty of a game against the Ravens. Like, the Ravens are a very good team. Don't get me wrong. Lamar Jackson is an MVP candidate, even though everybody disagrees with me that he's the number one in the MVP race. I think it's real close. I think if there's the only person that's as deserving as Russell Wilson of the MVP is Lamar Jackson, but I just still give the edge to Russell Wilson because of the team that he's doing it with. Russell Wilson has no offensive line. He has no defense, and Lamar Jackson has both of those things. But I don't want to take away from what Lamar Jackson has done either. But the Texans lose 41-7 against the Baltimore Ravens on Sunday, and it was Shaun, I don't know. It was one of the most disappointing. I got so disinterested in the game, like halfway through the third quarter, that I was sitting there playing Uno and board, like little kid. I was playing Candyland with my kids, and I wasn't. My wife's like, "Are you gonna watch the game?" And I'm just like, "No, I'm done. I'm done with this game." Carlos Hyde was actually running the ball pretty well, and they didn't give him the ball enough. Deshaun Watson was holding on to the ball way too long. The offensive line couldn't block. The defense couldn't stop anything. Everything about the Texans offense looked out of sync. It looked bad coming off of the bye. And you know what sucks the most is just how much we praised them for the weeks leading up to this. Even the loss to the Colts, we're like, you know what? It wasn't a great game for them, but we'll take that loss because you beat the Chiefs in Kansas City the week before. Then
right, but they were in it too. They were in that Colts game.
Right, exactly. And then they were 2 weeks removed from absolutely destroying the Atlanta Falcons. So you beat the Jaguars 26-3. You go on a bye week, you get to rest up and try to get healthy, and then you just lay an egg like this against the Ravens, where you had a chance to really prove that you are a contender and not a pretender. Let's use some of those old sports adages that everybody loves to fucking use. But you had a chance to prove yourself to be one of the best teams in the NFL, and to me, it shows me there's not enough talent. They're still too far.
They're the same old Texans. They're the same old Texans right now.
I wouldn't go that far to say they're the same old Texans.
Why not? They're the same team that we saw last year. Like, their wins this year have been more impressive. But not during any point during that 9-game win streak last year did you feel like, yeah, you know what, this team can like really compete in the playoffs. Like,
yeah, that's fair.
No, they lucked into those games.
Same result, but a different story. Yeah, I can agree with that. You're still getting the same result.
They feel like the Rockets right now. Like, and look, the Rockets are struggling tonight against the Nuggets in Denver. Tonight's a big game for the Rockets because, yeah, they've won 8-9 games in a row, whatever it is, but they really haven't played like the powers that be in the Western Conference and like said, hey, we're here and we're for real. It's early in the season, but you see my point.
Hey, Shaun.
What?
Shaun, did you watch that Mavericks game?
Yeah, I saw.
Did you see it?
Yeah.
Have you seen how good Luka Doncic is?
I know, he's awesome, bro.
Our Lord and Savior, Luka Doncic. I praise at the Doncic altar every morning. I don't know if you know that.
I know you do.
I get on my knees every morning and I say, "Oh Lord and Savior of all that is holy, Luka Doncic, please let your passes be on target and let your step backs be on point. For you are a merciful and great and kind Lord, and you are vengeful towards those who seek to enthrone you." He's the new king of the NBA.
I don't hate you. I don't hate you at all for like gloating, and you deserve it a little bit because look, Dallas has just been like putrid like in recent years.
It's fair.
But I'll say this. Luka is really freaking likable, man.
Yeah.
And there's not one thing that I dislike about him outside of the fact that he plays in Southern Oklahoma. But there's not really much he can do about that. So
He just loves playing basketball, and I'm real close to turning this into a Mavericks podcast, but I won't do that.
Stop.
I won't do that. But just
like you off.
That's the thing. It's like as I watch Rockets games, and I sometimes I'm disappointed in the way they rebound, or disappointed in the way they play defense, or disappointed in games, because I got the game up on my TV right now, but disappointed in the way that they flow against some of the better teams in the NBA. I can always look to my Lord and Savior Luka Doncic to pull me from the trenches. Although, like, here's the thing with the Rockets, like, at least James Harden always does everything he can. And to take this back to your point of the Texans are almost like the Rockets, at least you never have to worry about James Harden, right? Like, James Harden, 76 games out of the season, is going to go out and he's going to score 35 plus points, and you're never worried about James Harden. What makes me more worried, and what's worse about the Texans, is Deshaun Watson goes out and has a game where he just looks bad. He can't make a decision, or when he does, it's too late. He holds on to the ball too long. He takes bad sacks, and he just has these games. Actually, I'm going to take this down a Luka Doncic road a little bit, because I think this actually fits. I read an article today. I promise I'm only taking it for a second. I read an article today talking about what Rick Carlisle has had to do as a coach, coaching a guy like Luka Doncic, where he's had to let him. He has to find that balance between calling plays that fit Luka and also letting him loose and letting him do his own thing. So reining him in a little bit, but also letting him be creative, because he's that kind of superstar. I say that because I feel like Bill O'Brien has failed to find that balance with Deshaun Watson. I feel like there's times where he needs to let Deshaun go. When Deshaun gets on a roll and Deshaun's on fire, I feel like there's a lot of times that Bill O'Brien pulls him back and says, whoa, 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 you don't need to be doing that. Whoa, 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 you're getting a little bit too off script now, and he pulls him back. That's when you need to let him fly. But there's other times where he's not doing well, and Bill O'Brien doesn't pull the reins back on him. He lets him get too creative. He lets him get too cute. And I feel like that's a balance that Bill O'Brien's failing to find, and it's not all his fault. This is still solely, or not solely, but this is still predominantly on Deshaun. But like, it's just disappointing to watch him be so good for so many games and then just lay an egg like this.
I don't know. I guess you kind of qualified that, but I was gonna say, in like all fairness, the first sack, it might have been the first or second sack, I can't remember now. I really tried to erase that Ravens game from my memory as quickly as possible. But the sack that Deshaun took this past weekend, which he had it felt like 20 seconds to throw the ball, and he just ran circles around his offensive line and that defensive line in the pocket, and ended up going down.
That was actually pretty incredible, though.
Yeah, it was, but
also frustrating.
But that was on him, man.
Yeah,
that's on him. And to your point about Bill O'Brien, if you're going to interject him into quite possibly some of the failings solely by Deshaun Watson, it's that maybe Bill O'Brien tries his damnedest to get back on script and get some plays in there that Deshaun doesn't have to really think too much, that would typically be some quick hitters, but the offensive line breaks down, or somebody just cuts off a great route, or there's great coverage. Football is the most difficult thing, dude, for me to have a hard opinion on.
Yeah.
No matter how many times I watch a play or series or rewatch games. And I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't rewatch this crap. Hell no.
No.
This trash.
This is one of the few I won't rewatch.
I couldn't focus on the damn game with 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter. I mean, I was just like, get this crap over with so I can get on with my day.
So I'm saying, man, I was playing Candyland and getting my ass kicked. Like I was paying more attention to getting beat by a 9-year-old at Candyland than I was at this football game.
Yeah. I think it's incredibly difficult to be so matter of fact and that's not the term I'm looking for, to just be so absolute about what we see. I don't know that we always know what we're actually seeing with our own eyes. If it's Bill O'Brien in the play calling, if it's Deshaun, if it's the coverage, if it's the defense, there's so much to break down in a short amount of time when you're watching these games and plays alone. It's difficult. I just think taking the game in its totality, and Deshaun's had a couple of duds this season, and this was maybe one of the worst games that he's ever played in his brief career. It's not the end of the world because, look, this game was the most hyped. Why the hell it was on, for a noon kick when it was one of the most hyped games throughout the week, I don't know. And thank God it was now, because if I would have spent the whole day prepping for a 7 o'clock game or a 3:30 game, I would have been pissed. But it's something that, you hate to hear it, but it is on to the next. My main point about bringing the Rockets up into this conversation was just that, look, you haven't done anything yet because you haven't beat anybody yet. Okay, the Texans have better quality wins this year and have won more convincingly than any point last year, excluding that Dolphins game. But ultimately, I said that Ravens game was going to be the next barometer game. And it sucks because they laid an absolute egg. They couldn't convert on third down. They turned the ball over. They didn't get TOP. I mean, they didn't do anything right outside of the first 2 series. And one of those series ended with Deshaun putting the ball on the ground. And I just think ultimately you can't look past this Colts game to the Patriots as saying that's the next barometer game. To hell with the Patriots, bro. The season, maybe I'm overstating it, but I feel like this game against the Colts, a large part of the season's on the line. Like, this is a huge game for them. They were 6-3 before the Ravens game. They're 6-4 now. If they go down at home to the Colts, they're 6-5. The division is up in the air. You don't have any confidence in them, at home or on the road. And it's at home against the Patriots or against anybody. But you have to go out there and compete. And the problem with the loss this past weekend, dude, is they did not compete. Deshaun was defeated almost after the second series on offense, and that can't happen. That can't happen.
You know what I will say, though? I will say at least he wasn't freaking Dwayne Haskins having his offensive line laugh at him. Did you see that video?
That, yeah.
Oh, my God. That's just absolute garbage. Talking about a team that was defeated.
I thought the headline was, stronger than the video. I mean, it's not like they were just, busting at the seams. They couldn't believe what this guy was saying. But, I mean,
there was clear eye rolling and a lack of care.
But you know what? There wasn't a lack of care from Dwayne Haskins, and that's what I freaking love to see. That's what I love to see.
I do love to see that. But to bring it back to the Texans, all right, we know definitively that Mike Adams, Justin Reed, and Lonnie Johnson are out. I tweeted during the game that Justin Reed's the last person we wanted to see on the ground at this point in the season. Tayshaun Gibson is questionable. He'll probably play. But that's a little scary too. Will Fuller's questionable. He's not playing. Will Fuller, it's like, I don't even know. It's like he has a battery pack that he can only play a certain amount of games during the season, and the rest of the time his body just gives out. So I doubt he's playing. But Mike Adams, Justin Reed,
I don't think he should play. I don't think he should. You just got QT back this past weekend.
Right. Wait until he is definitively ready, because he's probably going to get injured at some point again anyway. But Mike Adams, Justin Reed, and Lonnie Johnson out. That's 3 of your three guys from the secondary that you really, at least, especially 2 of them. Lonnie Johnson has been really good the last couple of games, and he's just recently coming back from an injury too. Justin Reed's been, he's Justin Reed. He's been incredible, and with not having J.J. Watt out there anymore, you need your secondary to be as strong as possible. I will say the pass rush. The pass rush this last week against the Ravens wasn't great, but the pass rush hasn't been too terrible. With J.J. Watt out, it's still been able to produce a little bit. But you got to have your secondary strong, and not having guys like Johnson and Reed and Adams out there, that weakens the shit out of the secondary. And that terrifies me against a Colts offense that has T.Y. Hilton, that has Zach Pascal. Jacoby Brissett isn't a terrible quarterback. People, I've had some discussions with people that say, well, look at his stats. Now, I love stats. Everybody knows that about me, is I am an absolute stat whore. Which is one of the reasons, the conversation we'll get into in a minute about the NFL MVP, one of the reasons why I lean more towards Russell Wilson than I do Lamar Jackson. But Jacoby Brissett, they want to look. People say, look at his stats. Look at his stats. Well, he's been injured. He has 15 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. He only has 1,800 yards, but that's because he was injured for 2-3 games. Jacoby Brissett's been really good in Frank Reich's
pretty damn
system.
good. Those numbers are pretty good.
It's 15 and 4. It's a pretty good touchdown to interception ratio. I mean, look, if you look at his numbers and you do project like all of his statistics, what the fuck are those? All of his statistics projected over the amount of games that Deshaun Watson. What?
Screw statistics. I like
statistics.
I like statistics.
That's when they're good. When they're really good, it's a combination of statistics and fantastic. But if you project Jacoby Brissett's stats over the same amount of games that Deshaun Watson has played, which Deshaun Watson has 2,600 yards, 18 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, Jacoby Brissett is pretty on pace with Deshaun Watson in all of those numbers. So Jacoby Brissett is a good quarterback. T.Y. Hilton eats the defense at NRG. They're playing Thursday night football. It's on prime time. Like it's scary. It's a scary proposition thinking you have 3 guys in the secondary that you really need out there, and they're going to be out against T.Y. Hilton in this Colts offense. And you're absolutely right. They have to go out there and compete. They have to win this game. I'm not super confident that they're going to be able to do that, but when have we ever seen Deshaun Watson go out and just have 2 bad games in a row? Like the one time this season that Deshaun Watson had one of his bad games, the other game that you said where he laid an egg, he was back out on the field later that night throwing the football, and he worked his ass off that week, and he came out the next week and had a monster week. So while I'm not incredibly confident that the defense is going to be able to corral the Colts offense very well, which they might. The defense has actually been incredibly surprising with as many injuries as they've dealt with all throughout the season. But they weren't this week. It's Lamar Jackson. So it's hard to be good against him. But I'm not super confident that they're going to be able to stop Jacoby Brissett in this Colts offense. But one thing I just for some reason have no doubt in my mind about is that that Deshaun Watson's not going to come out and have another week. He's not going to come out and be weak again. He's not going to come out and have another egg of a week. He's going to look for DeAndre Hopkins. I feel like the running game's going to get going. Another thing that we haven't talked about yet is Marlon Mack's out, which sucks. I traded for him in a fantasy league where we're allowed to trade picks. I'm actually in it with B-Mac and Joe George and Kyle King, and I traded Trader Joe, bastard ass Joe George. I traded him Julio Jones and Carlos Hyde for Marlon Mack, Calvin Ridley, and a first round pick for the next year's first round pick, because I already had really good receivers. Like I had DJ Chark, I had Cooper Kupp, I had Christian Kirk. He was giving me Calvin Ridley, and Julio Jones has been good, but he hadn't quite been the Julio Jones of old. And we get to do keepers in that league too. I'm like, I'm kind of thinking I'm going to keep Cooper Kupp over Julio Jones. If not, I can keep somebody else. I think I have Chris Godwin on that team too. So I had really good receivers on that team. I'm like, okay, I'll give you Julio Jones for that first round pick, Marlon Mack. And then Marlon Mack goes out and gets it and breaks his damn hand and has to have surgery on his stupid ass hand. So Marlon Mack's not going to be in. He's been really good for the Colts this year. He's been really big for their offense. Well, that's one dimension that's going to be gone from their offense. I am confident that the Texans win. I'm not confident that the defense can consistently stop them, but I am fairly confident that the Texans can win. They've only had 2 real bad games, man. But last week was real bad. But I get it. It's hard to be confident.
I don't know how you're so supremely confident that they're going to win. I'm not even supremely. I'm not supremely confident that they're gonna compete. I'm just not, because I really thought we've seen, since the inception of this franchise, them suck in primetime games. Like, that's become a thing. Right. And while like that kind of history is not applicable at all, because teams, players, coaches, everything's changed. Venues have changed in where they've played these primetime games. It just simply hasn't mattered. But in the Deshaun Watson era, they've competed on those big stages. They've been in games. You saw the stat during the Ravens game this past weekend, and God, I hated the fact that they put that damn thing up there. Well, Deshaun Watson has never lost a game by more than 2 scores. Okay, freaking great.
He
Fantastic.
has now.
And you know what? This is year 3.
Mm-hmm.
This is year 3. It's not even a complete 3. This is just simply year 3 for him. And so the sample size, while it's impressive on one end, it's still a very small sample size. So I don't care what he hasn't done or what he has done. The point is that until you can play a full season and hang your hat on the fact that Mike Devlin has developed an offensive line with promise for a year or 2 or 3 years to come, that remains an issue.
Mm-hmm.
Until your secondary can be healthy. Like, God forbid they had to play a nickel or dime package at any point late in that game against the Ravens this past weekend, because they were down to 5 DBs.
Yeah, they wouldn't have been able to.
One guy goes down. Like, what wide receiver is going to go out there and play like corner or safety for the Texans in that instance if that happened? I started thinking about that. Right? No, like, why? Like, it was bad enough that Deshaun Watson was in the game as late as he actually was on Sunday. It's like, get him the hell out of there. Let's see some AJ McCarron, man.
So what's your prediction for tomorrow? I want your score prediction. Give it to me. Give it to me, Shaun.
I mean, all right.
Do you want me to give my score prediction while you think about it?
No, I'll give you mine. Okay. I don't need to think about it. It's just like, I'm going to give you a score prediction, but that's assuming they actually show up and freaking play.
Are you going to do like a pass-fail, win-loss score?
I'm going to give you if they show up and play score and if they suck balls score.
Oh, I'm getting two.
Okay? If they show up and play, I think Deshaun Watson and the Texans really the score is probably a lot closer than the game itself, but I'll go like 28-21, maybe 28-17, something like that. If they don't show up, then I don't think this is going to be like an ugly game, like they're going to get destroyed like they did, but I think it's a game kind of like the Panthers.
Yeah,
I think it's a game kind of like the Panthers lost, where they lose, a 17-10 type ball game, something like that. It bothers me that first quarter, Deshaun looked as defeated as I've ever seen him.
Mm-hmm.
And look, was he defeated? Probably not. But was his mind swimming?
Yeah, he was scrambling. He was forcing.
Yeah, absolutely, and he knew it. He didn't know how to fix it. Mm-hmm. They were off script, and they never freaking got back on. And when you go off script, and you're Bill O'Brien, and you're a team coached by Bill O'Brien, I think it's bad news, man.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all. Here's my score prediction. I'm predicting 31-27 Texans. I don't think that I think it's going to be a tough game. I don't have a lot of confidence that the defense is going to be able to stop the Colts offense, but I just have faith. You know what? My faith comes from the fact that it comes from Deshaun. That's where my faith comes from. It comes from the fact that we don't see him screw up 2 weeks in a row, not back to back, not whenever this one's at home. He laid an egg on the road against one of the best teams in the NFL. This is not that. It's a division rival, yes, but they're at home. Deshaun Watson doesn't tend to play poorly 2 games in a row. My confidence is solely on the back of Deshaun, and I hope he doesn't burn me. But I'm calling 31-27.
I know we have a bunch of other stuff to get to.
Yeah.
Man, that bothers me what you just said. They laid an egg on the road against one of the best teams in the NFL. The Texans were supposed to be one of the best teams in the NFL. I don't disagree with that. Yeah. They were supposed to have competed in that game. I don't know how many people were expecting them to win. I didn't really expect them to win, but I expected it to be a freaking game. I expected it to be a shootout. I expected it to be, Clemson v. Louisville all over again in college. Like, I wanted that type of drama. And, I mean, the game was over. The game was over, even though the score didn't really dictate it, because Deshaun does some really magical things sometimes, even when it was 21-0, even when it was 27-0. You know what? They can get back in this game and have an opportunity late, because you know what? Even when they're outclassed, outcoached, overmatched, some way, somehow, Deshaun Watson finds a way.
Yep.
This becomes far more about the other things besides Deshaun Watson, offensive line and secondary. And then, to your point about having confidence in the Texans, if you're going to have confidence in them and you want to make it about more than just Deshaun, you got to have confidence in what you just said. There's no Marlon Mack. The Colts run game is going to be suffering. Jacoby Brissett's banged up a little bit. Even if he's 75, 80%, Josh, even if he's 85%, whatever, right? Then still you have to have confidence in that Texans front seven to get to the quarterback a little bit and make it uneasy for him. And I think those things can happen because on paper, I feel like this Texans team is, I won't say supremely over-talented when matched up against the Colts, but they're a better football team than the Colts, I think. And it's more about other guys than just Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
It's, can they show up and compete? Can they freaking play? Can they play like the division's on the line, which it is?
Well, we will find out tomorrow night since the Texans are playing Thursday Night Football against the Colts at NRG Stadium. Shaun will be there, so follow him on Twitter and look at his Twitter at Shaun Bajani. I don't know why, but I want to start a Shaun Bajani burner account. Like I want to call it like Bajani's brain or something like that. It's just like Bajani Twitter. I'll just stand both
I don't
you,
hold
both
anything
you and your
back
brother.
on Twitter. My Twitter right now is basically that.
But follow him tomorrow night during the game. Get all the updates for the Texans Thursday night game because you'll be out there covering the whole game, right?
Yeah, I'll be out
Sweet.
there. Not going to be sitting in the press box for the first half. I'm going to go hang with my uncle and sit in his seats for the first half and then go sit in the popcorn fart box for the second half.
You fancy man for the first half. A couple more NFL nuggets that I want to get to. I mean, nuggets, they're discussions. Really, I want to hit on this. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on it because the moment is kind of past. But
Game 7 of the World Series.
We're not. No, that moment is definitely past. Oh, don't worry. We'll get to the Astros and my cheating takes. Myles Garrett has appealed his suspension, and the decision on the appeal is expected to be in about by tomorrow or like in a day or 2 days. And the rumors that I've seen floating around is that it looks to be around 5 or 6 games. That he's not going to be out indefinitely anymore, that he's not going to be out in the playoffs or through like in the beginning of next season. It looks to be around 5 games.
Who hears the appeal?
I'm guessing.
Is it an independent arbitrator or is it Goodell himself?
It's probably Goodell himself. You think the NFL gives a shit about some independent? And by the way, it's arbiter. By the way,
well,
Jesus.
I couldn't remember if the NFL changed like a year or two ago, I thought like whenever you file an appeal, if you're a player or whoever that's being punished, I thought it was going to be always heard by Goodell. I thought he was like judge, jury, executioner, or I couldn't remember if they had like an independent party doing that still.
I think it's Goodell. But I had my first bit like for my first real big it's not that big, but big tweet for me, where I had almost 1,800 likes and and almost 500 retweets, something like that. And it was kind of cool, but it was just about like I got really annoyed with the discussion. Both of them were in the wrong. I got really annoyed with the people that said, "Well, Mason Rudolph started the whole thing." Yeah. Like he didn't start the whole thing. Myles Garrett is the one that took him to the ground. I'm not saying that Myles Garrett was wrong in doing this because guys do this all the time. But Myles Garrett took him to the ground in a very unnecessary way, way after Rudolph got rid of the ball. Then Rudolph got pissy and started pushing at his head and started pulling his helmet off. Then Myles Garrett got pissy and pulled Mason Rudolph's helmet off. And I was fine with all of that because that's all football shit. That's all stuff that happens on a football field all the time. And I was even fine with Mason Rudolph. I thought it was kind of ballsy for Mason Rudolph to keep going after a big-ass motherfucker like Myles Garrett. That's some ballsy shit, man. But then when Myles Garrett swung the helmet, I don't give a shit what happened before. All of it was football. Every single second of that interaction was all football stuff until Myles Garrett swung that helmet and hit Mason Rudolph in the head. So I don't care what Rudolph did before that. I don't care what Myles Garrett did before that. The only thing I care about is the fact that Myles Garrett swung the helmet. Now, that being said, I feel like 5 games is more in line with what needs to happen.
5 versus indefinite.
5 versus the rest of the season, right? I guess that technically is the rest of the season. but 5 versus the rest of the season, 5 versus rest of the season and playoffs. People saying that he needs to be charged with assault. Shut up. The people that are like he needs to be out part of next season too. Y'all can shut up as well. Like, everything that I've ever seen from Myles Garrett is, yeah, he's a real penalized guy. And yeah, he has late hits sometimes and he gets penalized for it. But everything I've ever read or seen from him, I've had interactions with him when we were both on campus at A&M. I never got the vibe of he just wanted to beat people senseless. I really do feel like this was out of character for him. It's not something that he did, and he was provoked into it. That doesn't make it right. I'm definitely not defending him doing it, but it's not within. Like, that's not him. So the indefinite suspension to where he's possibly suspended some of next season, that's bullshit, and I'm not on board with that. Suspended for the rest of the regular season, and then he gets to play in the playoffs, I'm fine with that. You know what? If they did want to say he's suspended for the rest of the season and the playoffs, I'd be fine with that too. But 5 games seems about right. I'm totally fine with that, and I'm just tired of like all the people that say, well, Mason Rudolph didn't do anything, and I'm glad he didn't get suspended. Rudolph probably should have been suspended for at least a game. And all the people that are saying, well, Mason or Myles Garrett's, he was completely provoked, and you know what, Mason Rudolph just bit off more than he can chew. You're a fucked up person. Like the people that say Myles Garrett just bit off, or Mason Rudolph just bit off more than he can chew, and he got what was coming to him, are the same people that say that chicks bring it on themselves when they wear skirts that are too short. Those people, look, I'm gonna say this right now, and I know, like, I don't even care. I know that people can misconstrue this, and it's 2019. I need to be nice to everybody, but I'm so tired of being nice to everybody. All the people that say Mason Rudolph brought it on himself and he deserved to get hit in the head with a helmet, you can go fuck yourselves, and please kindly don't ever talk to me. Like, you're the shittiest type of human being, and I might have family members and friends that think that way. I just know that I think you're real stupid. Like, that's such a dumb, illogical way to think. But beside the point, the appeals will be heard. The appeals have been heard. The decision will be made.
Is he the only one that filed an appeal, Myles Garrett?
I don't think so. I mean, that's the most high profile.
I'm guessing Pouncey probably did too.
Pouncey shouldn't have gotten suspended at all.
Well, I think Pouncey should have.
No. But
Pouncey after the game said that he didn't feel like he should be suspended or miss any time.
I don't think
so.
So
the fact that they did suspend him, I'm guessing
he probably appealed.
Yeah, he'll probably appeal. And look, regardless of what he feels like, really, his agent is probably going to do that anyway, just because that's what you do. When you're given a punishment, you're going to appeal in effort to lessen the punishment. So
the only reason I say Pouncey, just within the context of the situation at hand and the way football is handled and the expected reaction from a guy like that who is a centerpiece of the offensive line that protects that quarterback.
I get it.
But within the context, and I get because of the rules he has to be suspended because he punched and he kicked.
Yeah.
I get that. But just like in the rules it says that technically Myles Garrett's not supposed to be suspended, it's just a penalty within the game that should be assessed, and there's no suspension involved. Like it should be different based off of the context and the circumstance. I don't think Pouncey should have gotten suspended.
The fact that they even have it, I mean, look, I'm going to catch myself there. You have to have that in the rule book.
Right.
You have to cover all of your bases. But at the end of the day, what happened punishment-wise to all of these guys is exactly what should have happened. It's exactly what should have happened, even to the indefinite suspension that Goodell put Myles Garrett on.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you had to do. And that was literally done hours after it happened. It was perfect. I thought Roger Goodell did a fantastic job. When's the last time you've ever been able to say that in regards to like Roger Goodell? No. And here's the thing, like, I didn't really think about this, but at the end of the day, I guess everything that I had in my mind as soon as that incident happened last weekend happened with the suspensions.
Mm-hmm.
But I went back and forth on whether or not Mason Rudolph should have garnered a suspension. I thought maybe a fine, for being an agitator or an instigator because, the punch to the crotch or the attempt to rip his helmet off. But you know what? Like, as you said, that was kind of like football stuff too, and that happens all the time.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, that argument is no better than exactly what we heard for about the first 24, 36 hours after this happened was, well, he started it.
Yeah.
Dude, are you serious right now? Like, inches could have made the difference between you making fun of Mason Rudolph in his post-game press conference to Mason Rudolph being carted off, bloodied.
Yep.
And incoherent and unconscious and God knows what else. Like, that legit could have happened.
If DeCastro hadn't been standing between Mason Rudolph and Myles Garrett, Mason Rudolph wouldn't have been able to give that press conference today.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm actually impressed that he was able to, because how the hell did you not suffer a concussion there? And when you suffer a concussion, you don't speak to the media. It doesn't happen. Not even if you want to. The team and the NFL does not allow
Don't let you. Yeah, I think I do like. I thought it was good of him to go and take ownership. I wish he would have memorized what he wanted to say instead of reading it off of that, like reading bullet points off of a piece of paper.
Well, he's probably a little jacked up at that point.
Whatever. I've had concussions and given speeches before. Come on. I've had no voice and
you didn't get a concussion in 2019, Josh. It's a different year. It's a different time.
In 2018, I was hungover with one of the worst headaches of my life and did a 4-hour radio show. He can have a concussion and memorize a small speech. I'm just saying.
Yeah. I feel you on that. Like,
I did so many shows hungover, by the way, when I was at 610. Almost every Saturday show was a hungover show. I just need everyone to know that.
That explains a lot now.
Hey, shut up.
Now, I just wanted to say this. The one thing I was disappointed in Mason Rudolph for that whole experience, that whole incident, as soon as he got clocked in the head by his own helmet, with 8 seconds left, you're down 21-7. The ball game is over. Mm-hmm. He threw his hands up, looking for a call.
Yeah.
What call do you want in that instance? What call is going to save your bacon? What call is going to put 14 points on the board? Like, I'm completely impressed by that to a certain degree, yet extremely disappointed in that by another. I think if I was in those shoes and I got clocked in the head with my own helmet and I still had the adrenaline pumping through my body enough
I'd be
to
beating ass.
I would have turned around. I would have taken somebody else's helmet off, maybe my own teammates, and tried to go after Garrett.
Yeah.
I mean, it would have been full-on melee. Like, I would have taken my cleat off and tried to shove it up his ass.
I would have done it. Look, and I'm not saying that I would have been successful, but I would have done everything in my power to try to beat Myles Garrett's ass at that point.
The fact that his attention completely shifted from Garrett, who he was like, savagely attacking like a ravaged dog, to where's the call?
Yeah, I think the best
What's
way I heard it explained was he had a real "my dad's gonna sue your dad" look on his face at that point, where it's like it's just he felt like one of those guys. Yeah, I mean, look, the only problem I have with the whole thing is I thought Ogunjobi should have been suspended more for that his hit was just as much bullshit on Mason Rudolph. Blindsiding a quarterback like that when the play is far over and flags are being thrown and whistles are being blown and throwing him down like that is just absolute bullshit.
He didn't even throw him down. He legit
he lit him up. Yeah, he lit him up
he hit
hard.
With his chest. It was like boom.
Yeah, he should have gotten as many games as Pouncey did. However many games they wanted to give Pouncey, if they had decided one game or the 3 games, Ogunjobi should have gotten just as many as Pouncey for that move.
Pouncey looked like he'd done that before, like not on a football field.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Pouncey looked like
I want Pouncey in my corner.
Yeah, literally.
I want Pouncey following me around places.
In a dark alley,
yeah.
Like wherever in a bad neighborhood, and you got to stop and get gas. Like that's when you want Pouncey.
Just like Myles Garrett was incredibly lucky just like Mason Rudolph was incredibly lucky that DeCastro was between him and Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett is incredibly lucky that DeCastro was in between him and Pouncey, because I'm pretty sure, like, you want to talk about biting off more than you can chew, I'm pretty sure Myles Garrett would have bit off more than he could chew if DeCastro wasn't between the two of them.
Pouncey's probably pretty lucky himself because, forget about the punches. Like, we see guys trying to punch each other with helmets on all the time, but like, if he kicked him how he wanted to kick him,
oh yeah,
instead of kicking the Brown's leg, like, we might be talking about a broken foot,
Yeah.
or a broken ankle, or some kind of injury there, because man, he said he blacked out, and I believe it. I've been mad
Yep.
before.
I've had those moments.
I've wanted to tear somebody to shreds, and I wanted to tear my friends apart for holding me back. You know what I'm saying? And that was
Note to self: don't fuck with Shaun. That's not.
don't
That's
true. Don't mess with me, man. I'm crazy. I'm psycho. But I ultimately, at the end of the day, I think all the punishments came down as they should have. What would the appeal process yield for guys like Garrett and for Pouncey and whoever else, if anybody else is hoping for an appeal? I think Goodell is best served staying status quo.
Mm-hmm.
That suspension, if it's lessened to 5 games, that allows him to come back and play the final game of the season. Now, if the Pittsburgh Steelers have any brain about them, they won't let that happen. I'm sorry, the Browns. They won't let that happen. It's the last game. Your season's probably over and done with. You're going to regroup, and you're going to make some better personnel decisions in the offseason, but you're not going to let one of your best defensive players, one of the best in the NFL, come back and play and potentially injure himself after being out for 3 months almost. You know what I mean? That's just not going to happen. Goodell needs to do exactly what he said. Indefinite suspension, and I'll revisit the issue in the offseason if he shows remorse. Mm-hmm. And that's it. That's it.
Yeah, I guess that's actually kind of right. I feel like 5 games would be okay, but yeah, even if it does go to 5 games, the Browns should just shut him down for the rest of the season. That's probably more right. I wanted to move into an MVP conversation, but we've already been going for like 45 minutes, which is awesome. But also, I don't want to spend an hour on football because I want more than enough time to talk about this topic. So we're going to forego
quick MVP conversation.
Yeah.
The only thing that changed about it is you were able to remove one guy, and that was Deshaun Watson from this past weekend. Yeah. It's still Russell Wilson, still Lamar Jackson, and probably right now, I have to go Russell Wilson just for the overall body of work this season, and the numbers across the board are phenomenal.
Thank you. Like, he and Lamar Jackson are both incredible. And I get that Lamar Jackson beat Russell Wilson at home, and Lamar Jackson has beat some big quarterbacks. And I'm not saying that it's like Russell Wilson number 1 up here, but you can't see it's off camera, but I can see it in my room. But I'm not saying like Russell Wilson up here and then Lamar Jackson down here. I'm saying like it's Russell Wilson and then Lamar Jackson just like he's right on his ass. Like that's 1A and 1B. They're real close, and then Patrick Mahomes is a little bit down here. If he had played the full season, he'd probably be a little higher, but
to me, he's on his ass because he's standing on a stool of potential.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
but he has an incredible offensive line that he's dealing with. He has top 3, top 5 offensive line. He has one of the best defenses in the NFL, although they allow a lot of passing yards. But he still has one of the better defenses in the NFL. Pretty sure they're either top 5 or top 10 in points allowed. They don't allow a lot of points. They're a real good bend but don't break defense. And Russell just doesn't have that. Russell has one of the worst offensive lines in the entire league. And I get that you like, but he has Dwayne Brown. Like, it doesn't matter. He has a bad offensive line, and that defense isn't that great. I get they have Clowney and they've got Thomas. They've got some guys, but it's just not. It's not like it used to be. That defense isn't great. And Russell Wilson
going to be. That was legit great defense.
Oh, great defense. But Russell Wilson is essentially doing this alone with Tyler Lockett and Chris Carson. And to me, for me, before I said it, he was the clear favorite. On Twitter the other day, I said he was the clear favorite, and then people started tweeting numbers at me, and I started diving a little bit deeper. I, like an idiot, I totally forgot to include Lamar Jackson's rushing stats. And I was like, that's a lot closer than I thought. So it's slight edge. It's not clear favorite now. It's slight edge to Russell Wilson, but I do still give, because this is what it comes down to for me. And maybe this is a bad way. Like, everybody's brought up the MVP conversation. I said we weren't going to talk about this, but look, here we are. But like, everybody's brought up that the MVP conversation is just a popularity contest anyway. But for me, what it comes down to is take any team, any roster, it doesn't matter who it is, and then put one of these. You get to choose one of these 2 guys to be on that roster. You take the worst roster in the NFL. Who are we going to take? Are we going to take the Bengals? Let's take the Bengals offense, and then let's take Russell Wilson or Lamar Jackson. Put them on that offense. Who's better? who wins more games with that roster? For me, I've seen Russell Wilson do it before and more consistently and for a longer time. He has taken not much and turned it into a lot more. His leading receiver last year was fucking Doug Baldwin. Like, he has more help this year, and his touchdown ratio was insane last year. It was like 18.3%.
Yeah.
He's 17% this year. He's leading the league again. The crazy thing about that, Lamar Jackson's not that far behind him in touchdown percentage, in touchdown rate. But if you told me, like, you have to go out and win a game with this terrible roster, and you get to either have Russell Wilson or Lamar Jackson be the one to win that game with this roster, I'm choosing Russell Wilson. It's incredibly close, but I am choosing Russell Wilson because I know he can perform without a lot of weapons, without an offensive line. I don't know that about Lamar Jackson yet, and that may be totally unfair. I get that might be unfair.
Sample size makes it very easy to choose Russell Wilson.
Yes.
Because of the sample size. You don't. It's almost like ignorant to say Lamar Jackson because you don't know what he's really capable of in various situations, like personnel-wise, talent-wise, things like that. So I think you're spot on. I think you have to give it to Russell Wilson. It's really difficult. Like, it's a popularity contest, but maybe rightfully so, like, in the given season, because so many times, too, we talk about guys deserving of an MVP as a lifetime achievement award. You could go that route with Russell Wilson, but he's proven before in previous seasons that he's worthy of such an honor as well. Just so happens, guys like Peyton Manning and Tom Brady, and Drew Brees have kind of clogged up the voting and put together some phenomenal statistical seasons themselves. So I think, in the sense that it's a popularity contest, it's kind of fair, and it should be for that given season. Lamar Jackson's the hottest thing right now going, and he's on the
His
hottest
story is
team
awesome.
in the NFL.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like that's what I said, like he's right there behind Russell Wilson, if not even with him, but he's standing on a stool of potential. So let's see what he does over the course of the next, 5, 6, 7 weeks. Whatever's left for them in particular in the regular season. And then, let's judge that full regular season body of work.
Aaron's Chaotic Gaming on YouTube. We actually have a comment for tonight. We haven't had one of those in like a couple of shows. But Aaron's Chaotic Gaming says, what about Christian McCaffrey? Which running backs could win the QB favorite trophy? It's really rare for a non-QB to win it these days, but I think that's a great question. What about Christian McCaffrey? He's last year through 16 games, he had 1,098 rushing yards. Through 10 games this year, he has 1,059.
If you took Christian McCaffrey away from the Carolina Panthers,
they're nothing.
What are they?
They're nothing.
Well, they're 5-5 now.
They're the Bengals. Like, their quarterback is Kyle Allen right now. Kyle Allen is not a good quarterback. The reason Kyle Allen has done better this year is because defenses have to be so freakishly worried about what Christian McCaffrey is doing at all times. They have to give Kyle Allen whatever he wants.
Yeah.
And Christian McCaffrey, like, they're 5-5 right now. I'm telling you, if they didn't have Christian McCaffrey, they have 1, maybe 2 wins. Because he is everything to that offense. Kyle Allen is a borderline backup quarterback in the NFL.
Hey, I don't disagree with you. That was just kind of like a reactionary question because, yeah, Christian McCaffrey deserves 100% to be in the conversation, but
yes.
But it's almost like, okay, well, is there ever going to be a defensive player to win the Heisman again? Who was the last guy to do that? Charles Woodson, right?
Yep.
It was a Michigan back in like 86, 89, something like that. Like, yeah, it's happened. A running back's won it before it's happened. But in the era of the quarterback and the fascination and the intrigue and just the idolization of quarterbacks, it's not going to happen. Not in this day and age. Not with guys like Lamar Jackson and Russell Wilson and hell, Tom Brady. Tom Brady's still going to garner some votes for a lot of people. As frustrated as he is about his offense and probably his personal statistics, Tom Brady across the board still like top 5, top 7, in every category on offense for a quarterback. Yeah. It's stupid.
Yeah.
It's stupid. As pissed off as he is, he's still putting up numbers that rival MVP conversation.
Yeah.
Because also his team is really freaking good, even though he thinks his team's not really that good right now. That conversation bothers me for a whole different reason, because in 2 weeks the Texans play the Patriots and they're going to freaking lay the wood on the Texans.
I'm going to do whatever I can to get Christian McCaffrey in fantasy from now on every year. That guy's ridiculous. He's going to have well over 2,000 total yards
maybe for the
end of
next
the season.
two. You know the lifespan of running back.
For the next two, maybe three. For the next 2 or 3, yeah. But I mean, that's the thing. He deserves to be in the conversation. Christian McCaffrey is obviously an incredible running back, but it's not a running back award unless that you just have a guy go out and I think the only time that a running back has a legitimate chance at winning the MVP is if he has a 2,000-yard season. You literally have to go and do what very few guys have ever done in the league, and you have to have a 2,000-yard season. And even then, it's not a great chance.
There's MVP, there's Defensive Player of the Year, Defensive Rookie of the Year, right? Is there Offensive Player of the Year separate from MVP?
Yeah, there's Offensive Player of the Year and MVP, and Christian McCaffrey absolutely deserves that.
Well, I'm going to ask you, historically, are those two intertwined? Kind of like the AP Player of the Year in baseball typically winds up being the MVP of the league, right?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
So
from everything that I've ever seen, it's like the runner up to the MVP gets Offensive Player of the Year.
Okay. So
pretty much.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, there is a little bit of a difference then. So Offensive Player of the Year could be we're going to give you this, even though you might should have gotten MVP, but we can't really give it to you because it belongs to a quarterback in this era. So go home with this and be happy. Right.
All right. Let's move into this conversation because I'm figuring we're going to go for at least a half an hour on this. So let's go ahead and swerve. We're going to move out of football. Texans play tomorrow night. I'm excited about that game. We've already told you those feelings. If for some reason you skip forward and you're only seeing this part on the VOD on YouTube right now, then rewind and go listen to our Texans conversation. I'm not bringing it up again. But to end the show, and I say end the show, I mean this is going to be I think it's going to be a pretty lengthy conversation because I know you definitively have a lot to say about it. I don't really have a lot to say, but we're going to talk about the Astros cheating scandal. I don't have a lot to say about this. A lot of what I'm going to say is mostly going to be reactionary to the things that you, your feelings and what you have to say about it. So I'm going to start only because I don't have a lot to say. And here's what I have to say about the Astros cheating. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a shit. Juice. Do steroids. Freaking use cameras. Steal signs. I don't give a shit. At the end of the day, what are we talking about? You got John Boy out there spending 45 hours a fucking day. I understand there's only 24 hours in a day, and 2 days is 48 hours. But somehow, this weird dude is spending 45 hours a day scouring video after video after video to find all of this evidence of the Astros cheating, and he's taking every little piece of trash as some kind of evidence. We get it. They cheated. They got caught. They screwed up. Bad things are going to happen. But they cheated at a game where you hit a ball out of a park. Who cares? They didn't kill anybody. They didn't cheat on their wives. They didn't cheat somebody out of money. They didn't break a law. They cheated at a game. I'm just saying, as long as it makes it more entertaining for me, the viewer, and they win championships off of it, do it. Fucking cheat. I don't care. I don't care if people juice. I don't care if people use cameras. I don't care if people use buzzers. I don't care because it makes the product better for me to watch. It makes the product better for everybody to watch. It does. I get oh, they get paid millions of dollars to play a game. Exactly. They get paid millions of dollars to play a game. It doesn't mess. Them cheating doesn't mess with you at all. You know who it messes with? It messes with the other players in the league. And I'll be quite honest. I don't care about the other players in the league. I don't. At the end of the day, really, honestly, I don't care about the Astros. They're probably very nice people, and I enjoy watching them play baseball, and I love cheering for them. But if I had to choose between saving my child and going and meeting Lance McCullers, I hope my kid gets really good at hospital care while I'm meeting Lance McCullers. Like that. Okay, that's not happening. Like I'm choosing other things outside of the Astros. Like I don't care if they cheat, and everybody's obsessed with it, and they don't need to be. This is a damn game. And oh my God, they cheated at a game. Just cheat better than them. I want all of this in it. I want HGH. I want them to have electronic devices. I want them to have TVs in the dugouts, because at the end of the day, it makes the experience of the game better for me as the fan. It makes it better for me from a viewing perspective. And what I don't want to watch a bunch of skinny guys not hit balls all the time. I want to watch, dude, juice the balls, MLB. If they're juicing the balls, I don't care. So I know that you probably hate me for everything that I just said, Shaun. And you have a lot to say about this. Yeah, I can already see it in your face. And I'm not even going to argue with you. I totally understand that this is an unpopular opinion, and I know that you're going to be. I knew going into this you'd be mad at me, but now you have a lot to say. I've given my 2 cents. Go.
Some of what you said, I agree with. In that, at this point, you throw your hands up. They cheated. They got caught. It sucks, but now they got to suffer the consequences. Rules are rules, and they seem to have broken plenty of them along the way. And I mean, I hate it, and I hate it so much to this point. And part of this opinion by mine is probably like tainted because I've read and watched so much of that crap by people like John Boy. And I feel like every day my Facebook feed is just like littered with the newest evidence of what somebody found. And it pisses me off. It's embarrassing, but it's gotten to the point to where it's made me feel bitter towards the team.
Why?
I've been.
Why is it pissing you off? Like sorry, not why is it pissing you off? Why is it embarrassing for you?
Because again, the attention that it has garnered by every baseball fan across this country. All I keep thinking about is if we were Dodger fans, Yankee fans, Indian fans, Rays fans, Red Sox fans, all of the teams that the Astros have beaten along the way in 2017, 2018, and 2019 to go to the American League Championship Series, to go to the World Series, at this point, and we'll get to who else is cheating, but at this point, the face of this scandal of cheating in baseball using technology right now, the face of it is the Houston Astros. All I kept thinking about is, well, what if we were those other teams that got beat by the team that was cheating, by the team that everybody's pointing the finger at, the team that, got caught, and maybe we were doing the same thing, just not as good, but guess what? We didn't get caught, and, ignorance is bliss.
You know what sucks?
That's what makes me mad. Hold on just one second.
Go ahead.
Hold on just 1 second.
Yeah.
I wanted to say that, while all of this sucks, it's that, and the embarrassing part is when you're embarrassed, the reason why you're embarrassed is generally because you're always worried about what the other person's going to think of you when you walk into a room, what the other person is going to talk to people about behind your back, what the other people are going to think and say when you're not there. The snickers in the corner of the room, the glares across the room. These are the things that we deal with as humans. These are similar things that organizations are going to be dealing with from a fan standpoint. From here on out, you could say that, this is just another situation in which time will heal all wounds. Okay? And I can agree to that to a certain point, but right now, this stings. It hurts. I'm bitter. I'm embarrassed. I don't want to become the New York Yankees. I didn't want to become the Boston Red Sox. I didn't want to become the Chicago Cubs. I didn't want to become the Los Angeles Dodgers. I wanted the Houston Astros to be the team that a lot of people thought they were in 2015, 16, and 17 in particular when they won the World Series. And that is the team that everybody crapped on every year. For Houston, we've got a problem. This, that, and the other thing. The team with the most likable group of guys, the guys that were the easiest to root for, that just also happened to be some of the very best in the game's era. And now all of that is tainted because of this cheating and how they allegedly went about it. What matters to me is they got caught. I know and you know that a lot of the teams that I just mentioned are doing it and have done it, but they didn't get caught. The reason why, and this is my ultimate point, and I'll let you talk on it a little bit. When Robert Manfred, I believe it was yesterday, today's Wednesday, so it was Tuesday, when he spoke and he was adamant, and this became a story, he was adamant that he believed that the Astros are the team that we need to deal with, and they're the team that has been implicated. Nobody else. They're the central focus of who's cheating. He cannot openly say and leave it open-ended to this point and say, well, you know what, there might be other teams. I've seen things on Twitter in regards to Christian Yelich and the Milwaukee Brewers in games against Yu Darvish. Was it when he was with the Rangers or the Dodgers? I can't remember now, but you've
Darvish or Dodgers. It was when he was with the Dodgers.
You've seen that video, right?
Yeah.
And tweets back and forth. Robert Manfred cannot include other teams into this.
No, he has to have a scapegoat. He has to make an example of one team.
You say it as ugly as you want to, but at the end of the day, you are right. Say it as ugly as you want to, but if he leaves open the idea that there could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 25 other teams out there doing exactly what the Astros are doing, he has to spend time, money, resources, investigations, and that can't happen. That can't happen. Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, Sammy Sosa, Rafael Palmeiro became the face. Mark McGwire became the face of steroids in baseball. You know how many other guys were doing the same damn thing that made multiple All-Star appearances? Guys that weren't even mentioned in the Mitchell Report that made multiple All-Star appearances that were probably cheating. Guys that one of which broke my heart when I found out that he took steroids and is now in the Hall of Fame. How many guys like that, exist? How many teams exist? It can't happen. It's terrible for baseball. Mm-hmm. In a sport that is finally, and I don't care what viewership says, because it's all about revenue, is approaching, 10, 11, 12 billion dollars now a year. Just, if you think about it, that's really damn good. Yeah, they play a whole bunch more games, but it's right behind the NFL. Right behind the NFL. They've also got another problem in which Robert Manfred seems to be more concerned with ridding Major League Baseball teams of a lot of their minor league prospects and facilities and just overall teams here in the near future, which I don't think will happen. But there's a lot of stuff going on, not to mention a new CBA that's got to be coming up here. They can't afford to dive too deep into the weeds. So you're right. They're going to make the Astros the scapegoat, the example.
You have to in this situation.
That should absolutely strike fear into Astro fans, and that's what makes me bitter. That's what makes it embarrassing, because they got caught. Now they've got to suffer the consequences for everybody's action, because Mike Fiers opened his freaking mouth.
Fuck Mike Fiers. I will agree with you there. Like, that does make me bitter, and now that I understand more fully, I think I can completely agree with that sentiment, because it makes me mad. It makes me bitter, because in 2017, multiple teams were using technology to steal signs and to cheat. The fact that the Astros are being made the face of this now, it's like everybody's literally forgetting that the Yankees and the Red Sox got in trouble for this exact thing in that year. They got in trouble for this exact thing. Yet the Astros are the only ones that were.
I don't remember what the Yankees did.
They were using the iWatch as well. It was both teams got in trouble for the Apple Watches.
Okay.
And so both teams got in trouble. And honestly, I didn't care about that back then either. But the thing that's making me angry is that the Astros are going to become the example. Manfred's, he has to, and I understand it from a power move standpoint. From he is the person in power, he's the commissioner. He has to make an example of the Astros, and it sucks. And here's the deal: the fact we all know that other teams are doing it. Any team that tries to deny it is doing it. Any team that's playing at a high level is doing this shit. There's a quote by Gandhi that talks about business, and I've always felt this in sports too, because anytime anybody tries to accuse another person's team of cheating, if their team is anything close to being good, their team has freaking cheated. But Gandhi has a quote about business that says it's not difficult, it's difficult but not impossible to conduct honest business. What is true is that honesty is incompatible with amassing a large fortune. There's something along the lines of that. I used to use it all the time. But essentially that means you can have an honest business and be happy. You can have an honest team and be happy, but you'll never have a large fortune. You'll never win a championship. The only way you can compete at the top level, whether it's in business or it's in sports or whatever, is by finding any advantage that you can get, whether it's honest or dishonest. Anytime you can step on the throat of the person that you're going against in any way to give you an unfair or fair advantage, you have to do it to be able to win. So well, go ahead.
So far be it from me to like disagree with Gandhi. Okay. However, I mean, I do understand that quote. I get it, but I would apply it to the sustainability of having a fortune or being successful. Surely, quite simply, just that, the sustainability to consistently be at the top and be regarded as the best. Mm-hmm. I think it becomes incredibly difficult and maybe at times impossible to be on the up and up across the board. When your competition knows its beat, tactically, skill wise, talent wise, personnel wise, preparation wise, venue wise, whatever the case may be, they're beat. How can they seek an advantage? Mm-hmm. I mean, such is life in the history of the world. However, I'll say this, like I immediately thought of my grandfather when you bring this Gandhi quote up and you're giving these examples.
I thought you were about to say this Gandhi crap. You were about to say this Gandhi crap, weren't you? Yeah,
no, I wasn't.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
I immediately thought of my grandfather because you talking about like shady business and stuff like that. He was a city councilman for 30 years. And, he was on the city council when it had just 8 members all the way through 1993, which was his last year. He lost his last election when the council at that time had grown to like 12 or 16 members. Mm-hmm. I can't tell you how many stories I overheard or he personally told me of people, businessmen, councilmen offering him money to vote a certain way, and take this bribe, quid pro quo. Mm-hmm. Okay. That kind of stuff. And my grandfather said, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I mean, just hell no. Get the hell out of my office, And
I would have taken the money, but that's me.
Well, he also would have gone to jail with Ben Reyes and John Castillo and a whole bunch of those other guys back in 1993 that served time for 15, 20 years. But
give me some credit. I know how to cover my tracks, sir.
My point is, you know what? My grandfather left office 15, 20, 30,000, maybe 50,000, maybe $100,000 poorer than a lot of those other guys. They maybe have bigger bank accounts, better cars, bigger houses, and maybe their names are known a little bit more prominently in their respective neighborhoods in which they grew up. But guess what? So is my grandfather's, with a smaller car and a smaller house, but a lasting legacy. You know what I'm saying? And a positive.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, like, that's the point. That is the point. Legacy. And that term is thrown around so cavalier in everything that we talk about, from a personal player standpoint to a team's. And now, for the first time in 50 some odd years, your baseball team wins a title, brings just the 3rd major sports title to the city in 2017. and it's tainted,
Mm-hmm.
what legacy is that? That you just so happen to be the freaking best in that little block, a meaningless block of over 150 years of baseball history? You know, like you cheated better than somebody else, but your ass also got caught. So what legacy is that? Robert Manfred in Major League Baseball probably will never take away that flag in center field, won't take away your trophy, won't take away those rings, but the legacy that you left behind that currently exists and will now exist forever as being a part of one of the biggest scandals in its sports history sucks. It's embarrassing, and I don't want to be a part of it. It is what it is right now. There's no going back. There's no do-overs. It's how the hell, if you're Jim Crane, Jeff Luhnow, can you operate going forward? Because this, while it might be the biggest issue that lies ahead for the Astros, they hadn't even gotten over the Taubman stuff. Mm-hmm. They hadn't even gotten through the Reed Ryan demotion. They hadn't even gotten through Nolan Ryan giving you double rods and saying, you know, I'm done with this crap. I'm going to go freaking make TV commercials, you know, for Atlas Siding and Windows or whatever the hell it is. Like, I'm going to keep doing my thing. You guys keep doing your thing. Like, nobody thinks about that now, but you know what? He probably saw this stuff coming.
Yeah.
And he probably never wanted to be a part of it. But you know what? Those ships are really nice. The rings are really nice. The opportunity to win those is really nice. But when you know what hits the fan, and you're talking about one of the great ball players of all time, one of the greatest athletes of all time, and that is exactly what Nolan Ryan is. You want to be a part of that? Is that what you want your lasting legacy to be?
Right.
No, absolutely not. And that's what tears me up, because without them thinking and even realizing this at this point, it brings all of those guys into it.
I just want to say again. Fuck
Sorry, that was really
no.
long,
You're good.
Really
no, that's I'm actually I'm gonna clip that and put that shit up because that was fucking great, and it makes me. I still think I want everybody cheating, but it makes me rethink my entire stance on the entire situation. But I just want to reiterate this. Fuck Mike Fiers. How in the okay. I'm gonna use a military thing. I went to war with guys. All right. And they didn't always make the best choices, but they were my brothers. And I never in a million years, I went to war with them. Never in a million years would have sold them down the river. Never would have thrown them under the bus for anything. Now, I never will, never have, wouldn't even cross my mind. How can you go to war for an entire season with guys? I'm sorry you didn't make the World Series roster, but you sucked. You started sucking ass. But how can you go to war with guys and have that ring and then 2 years later sell them out like that and fuck over guys that you played with, that you called brothers, that you went to war with, that helped win you a ring, whether they fucking cheated or not? How can you sell them out like that? Because what, you wanted a little bit of press? Because you were tired that nobody was talking about Mike Fiers anymore? Like, fuck Mike Fiers. What a terrible, terrible piece of shit. He should give his ring back. You know what? You want to know what? You're so damn ashamed that the Astros cheated to win a championship. Give that damn ring back, because you didn't even earn it in the first place. That's one of the it's the biggest bitch move I've ever seen. And if he had done it out of integrity for the game, if he had done it right after the season, I can respect that. But he didn't. He waited.
Oh, what integrity would be left?
Right, exactly.
Because what integrity would have been left? Because he locked wins. He pitched a no-hitter, with batters cheating in that same game.
Yeah, exactly.
Putting runs on the board, putting hits on the board, putting base runners on the pass.
He didn't say shit about it then.
In that same game. No. So what do you just, as soon as you find out, are you going to step off the mound? Are you that holier than thou? That will never, ever, ever, ever happen in any sport at any point in time, ever. You know why? Because success feels too freaking good.
Yeah.
Because nobody needs to know about it at the time. Everybody is on your side when you're doing so well. Here's the thing.
Oh, go ahead.
Here's the thing, dude. Mike Fiers went on record. He went on record and said this. Those words, these allegations came from him.
Yeah.
Would they have come out anyway? Maybe. Would it have come out via, this Taubman debacle? Would it have come out via the people that he told? Sorry, where did he get traded to? Detroit, right?
I think so.
I don't know why I can't think of it right now, but would it have come? He said in this piece with The Athletic that he had to tell his teammates what's going on to see if they're doing the same thing. He had to tell his teammates what the Astros were doing to see if his new team was up to speed on how to defense that. Oh, really? You mean maybe your team as well isn't cheating as good as the Astros? Not just necessarily you're trying to defend your turf when you face the Astros, but, well, what if the Astros are doing something far more advanced than what your new team is doing in regards to how it cheats? But that's cool. Integrity. You can kiss my ass.
Yeah.
Like, it's not about integrity. It's just like this, trading sides, and you've got to give your new home, your new team, the upper hand and let them know what the opposition's going to do for 3 meaningless games that you're going to play them in June or July.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like, that's what burns my ass up about it.
Yeah, Mike Fiers can go fuck himself. Let's close this out with what do you think the punishment's going to be? I don't think they'll take away the championship, but I mean, there's going to be fines out the ass.
Here's the thing.
Do you think it could go as far as them? Well, I guess that wouldn't happen. But do you think it could go as far as them forcing Jim Crane to sell the team? I don't see why that would happen, but I saw somebody bring that up.
I mean, you're trying to think of anything and everything that would hurt an organization in a city, right?
I mean, what would be the death penalty for a Major League Baseball team, right? That's what I'm trying to think of. What would be the death penalty for them? Because I feel like that's what they're going to get, and it's bullshit. But I really do feel like that's what's going to happen.
Well, I mean, look, I've been thinking about this like all week, right? Just like everybody else has, and inventing like voodoo doll type punishment, to the Astros. Like, what's the worst that can happen? What's the worst that will happen? I even thought of this, that, is it possible that Robert Manfred puts a commissioner's cap on the Houston Astros and caps them in what they can spend in the next 3 years in free agency? Well, they're already in the luxury tax, so that would really be working against, the greater good there. Baseball wants more money, so you'd be actually hurting yourself if you did that, right? Just in case Jim Crane was willing to go further and further into luxury tax.
Right.
What about this? Before I give you a punishment, let's put together all this evidence, this so-called evidence that these guys like John Boy on social media and all these
John
people.
Boy. I'd love to be in a room alone with that fuck. What an obsessive little shit.
Put together all this evidence, and in particular the emails. Like, the video's the video, okay, whatever. The emails from what personnel, executive to a scout, who sent that email, who's his boss, those are the guys that are going to feel the punishment. So, let's try to be specific here. Like, you say, well, you can't punish Jeff Luhnow because, well, he just puts the team together. What does he have to do with the actual game scenarios and cheating in that? No. You don't know the organizational structure. Let's not pretend we know the organizational structure. Jeff Luhnow very well could be suspended, fined, whatever, if it is found that he knowingly allowed an employee of his, somebody directly underneath him, had knowledge of an email sent to a scout to do these things. That implicates Luhnow. That implicates potentially Taubman, the assistant general manager, maybe not at the time, but whoever that was at the time, and so it goes down the line. Does it go all the way up to Jim Crane? Well, you know Jim Crane played baseball. He's not stupid like Drayton McLean was. He actually knows a thing or two about the game. Is Jim Crane in on these conversations? Emails? Is he aware of this stuff? That's where it really becomes. And thank God Jim Crane wasn't stupid enough to comment today at the owners' meetings.
Right.
Oh my God, I couldn't tell you how happy I was to read that report by Chandler Rome today.
That they were holding people back, and he had a sheriff next to him. Yeah, the genius move.
Well, it was, but it kind of like, I still expected a little bit better Jim Crane. I expected the typical response of, well, as is the case in any criminal investigation in the court of law for citizens, we as a Major League Baseball team are under investigation by Major League Baseball. Therefore, I'm not able to comment on anything in regards to the investigation. Mm-hmm. Quite simply, that's what I expected. Point is, he didn't say anything, but Crane all the way down to the scouting department, Josh, could be subject to not just fines, termination, suspensions. That is the extent of what, in my opinion, I would expect to see from Robert Manfred in terms of punishment. Not relinquishing the trophy, nothing like that. Not putting an asterisk. We're not even putting asterisk next to Hall of Famers.
But
okay?
You know what though? I would totally have, a shirt that would say asterisk. It'd be the Astros.
Don't will that into reality.
It'd be a custom shirt with the Astros logo, and on top it would say 2017, and underneath the logo it would say asterisk.
Hilarious. Let me ask you a question. So,
okay. I might have an answer.
We've seen video stuff, implications of cheating from 2017, correct?
Right. Yes.
Nothing from 15?
Nope.
Nothing from 16?
Nope.
Nothing from 18?
Nope.
Isn't that odd?
Nothing from 19 either. Only from 17.
Isn't that odd, though?
A little bit. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, that's a little strange.
So, while strange, it might be the best thing that happens to the Astros in this whole investigation. You hope this investigation wraps up in the next few days. Hell, the next week, I'll give them that. I don't know how extensive it is. If it's an extensive NFL-type investigation, which seems to be,
right,
like that in some instances, or an extensive NFL investigation, which literally drags on for months until you forget about this, and it's a Friday news dump.
That's what I hope it is. That's what I'm hoping.
Well, Major League Baseball's not in the business, I don't think, of Friday news dumps. This is a story, and it's got to be a story for a guy in Robert Manfred who nobody thinks is fit to be a commissioner in Major League Baseball until he drops a hammer. That's what people want to see. That's what people are saying. And until he drops a hammer on somebody that they feel like deserves it, then he's not fit to be a commissioner.
It's fucking mob mentality, though. Like, that's what sucks. That's what's so shitty about it, is that's mob mentality, and that's being controlled by the mob. And that's what pisses me off more than anything, is that you're letting a mob of shitty Yankees fans control how you're viewed and control what your decision is. That's what pisses me off more than anything. They cheated and they got caught. But is it really that bad at the end of the day? Did anybody die? Was the cheating itself really that bad? Was it really that beneficial for them at the end of the day?
But Josh, again,
But shouldn't that be weighed rather than the mob mentality, though? Shouldn't those factors be weighed too? But the decision and the death penalty is going to be, even though everybody was doing it and everybody knows it, and everybody it's going to end up being mob mentality. We do know that in 2017 other teams were doing it, because two other teams specifically, and one of the teams in the Yankees, whose fans are fucking leading this witch hunt, those two teams, we definitively know they got in trouble for using electronics.
You're right, but don't say everybody, because
everybody, literally every player in Major League Baseball.
But you don't know. Like, look, I'm gonna give you Yankees and Red Sox, because we know there was issues, which also led the Astros to be implicated themselves publicly in 2017 when they had an employee peering into the dugout of one of those teams. I think it was the Red Sox.
Yeah, it was the Red Sox.
With a cell phone. Okay?
Yeah.
And then, that spurns Jeff Luhnow 2 years later to say, well, that makes us look guilty when we knew what was going on. We were just trying to, defend against that. Okay. And then there's a vicious cycle. I don't want to say everybody, because
Everybody. I'm
what
generalizing for the
what
rest of my life.
what goes back to, not necessarily, I guess you could call it the heart of my argument here, is that I put myself in other teams, not name the Red Sox and the Yankees, but teams like the Rays and the Indians and the Dodgers that the Astros beat in 17 or in 18 or in 19 to do what they did. And you can't say everybody until you know. And Robert Manfred, while personally is probably not sleeping at night wondering who and how and when and how many, he can't publicly be concerned with that. It has to be about this team. And he's got to hammer this team and make an example until the next time. Until the next time. And you know what? Wouldn't be surprised if a punishment comes out in 3 months, and a month later, 3 other teams have whistleblowers pointing the finger at them. 5 other teams, 8 other teams, about stuff that went down 4 years ago, 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do then? Robert Manfred can't allow that to happen. That becomes a gigantic mess. That puts a gigantic stain on the game of baseball, a game in which cannot afford to have yet another cheating scandal stain the sport. One team, you deal with it, and you make it hurt. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that's going to feel like. I don't know what that's going to look like, but that's the way I feel like if I was commissioner, I'd have to be dealing with it.
Yeah.
I have to believe that Robert Manfred, and he's got a team of really smart people, I have to imagine, are going back and forth over this thing, Josh. Let's you and I do that for a few seconds. If you had the opportunity to really put the hammer down on 5, 6, 7 teams that you could get dirt on today,
Mm-hmm.
and you're going to punish all of those teams, do you do it? Do you expend the resources, the time, the money at the risk of hurting your sport and costing your sport millions upon millions upon millions of dollars in viewership and TV deals and sponsorships and fans potentially? Do you do that, or do you hammer one team?
Oh, you hammer one team. You have to. That's why when here's a perfect example. In one of my friends that went through language training with me, he was an airborne crypto linguist just like I was. But before that, he was training to become a combat controlman, which combat control is one of the special forces of the Air Force. You've got the pararescuemen, you've got combat control, and there's another one that I forget, but they're not as cool. But he was doing combat control, and they were in the middle of some of their swimming drills. And every once in a while, they do crazy shit. They do like 20-mile rucks. They have to do hundreds of sit-ups and hundreds of push-ups in a day. I mean, hundreds upon hundreds. And they do like swimming drills where they have to swim back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And he was one of the guys that was in the top of the class. This guy is an absolutely insane athlete. He's just got a different mentality. He's one of these guys that would have been killer in the special forces. One of the instructors one day when he was doing his swim kicked him in the head while he was in the water. He hit his head against the wall. They immediately disqualified him. Just because that one example showing the guy who was the best of the best, who was the top of everything, making him an example, saying even the best, when they fail, they cannot be a part of this anymore. They made an example of him just because they could. He ended up being an airborne cryptologic linguist, and he freaking hated it. And that's what you do if you're in a position where you need to show everybody else where their place is. If you need to show the rest of the league, you need to stop this, or I'm going to hammer you for it, because even the best go down. They're going to go down hard. You just take one team, one group, make an example of them, and you hit them really, really hard. So the rest of the league, so there's no more whistleblowers, so there's nobody else that's going to come out and say anything, and so it goes right back underneath of the dark recesses of the league, like where it was before.
But okay, so you take down the Astros. Does that deter the Indians, Twins, Mariners, Rangers, Cardinals, Braves, Dodgers, these other teams from cheating?
No. No, teams are still going to cheat. That's the
How?
thing.
But then the question is, okay, well, how? Now eyes are on the dugout and the tunnel, and cameras and technology in the dugout. How do we go about this now?
People will forget.
What else is there? What else is there in 2019 where getting a guy on second base to look in at the catcher's signs isn't good enough? What else is there, besides having a guy in center field with binoculars to relay signs to us? What else is there besides using Apple Watches or TV monitors? What else is there? That thought process is already happening. Probably on Mike Fiers' team.
I will literally take $70,000 a year. I need all MLB teams to listen to this right now. $70,000 a year and season tickets in center field. I'll get binoculars. I'll get a walkie-talkie, and I will steal all the signs for you. Book it. I will do that for you right now. $70,000 a year. This is super cheap.
But my point is okay, who gets butt hurt next?
Oh, somebody will.
And then who points the finger next? Like, who's the next team that's going to be taken down because somebody else?
It's the Yankees. Oh, I hope it's the Yankees.
And like, for what? Like, what did Mike Fiers have to gain out of this?
Having his name out there, being in the press. That's literally it.
Game now. He wants a clean game, and what does a clean game mean? I don't know. Like, do you want to draw the line at, like, yeah, we can use all kinds of substances that we're not supposed to on the mound? Like, that's cheating. Like, that's baseball and written rule cheating. Like, we're good with that. But
you see the video of him with the pine tar on his glove, just reapplying it every single time that ball hit the ground. Fuck him.
Yeah, the
he can go fuck himself.
The play-by-play, whoever did that voiceover was really good.
I'm pretty sure.
I thoroughly enjoyed that.
I'm pretty sure that was John Boy.
Oh, was that him?
I'm almost positive that was a John Boy joint. That, like, here's the thing.
No, I don't think it was.
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure it is. I know I don't like him now, but I've liked John Boy for quite a while now, and I'm almost positive that was one of his videos from not that long ago. Or from, like, back earlier in the season.
You could be right. I just feel like I remember seeing, like, a different little, usually it says John Boy at the very top, or, like, whoever's video it is. I felt like
I think people were retweeting it, but it was a John Boy video.
Okay.
But anyway, beside the point, the real point is fuck Mike Fiers and his pansy ass. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and end this because my back is starting to hurt. I haven't been sitting in the best way. I have, like, my chair is ergonomic, but sitting back like this feels weird.
And it sounds weird.
It does sound weird. Don't make fun of the sound of my chair. But now my back hurts.
No, I just mean I can't hear you as well. It sounds weird.
Oh, yeah.
Far away.
I could do this, and I could just bring this with me and sit here. But then it covers my face, which is actually probably preferable. The Rockets ended up losing, by the way, because of course they did against the Nuggets. But yeah, I don't know what's going to happen with the Astros. It's going to be interesting to see. But we will not be back next week. Because I'm going to be out of town for the entire week for Thanksgiving. Where
are you going?
We're going to Orlando. I mean, we're not going to Orlando. According to my children who may watch this later, we're going to Dallas for the week for Thanksgiving. But we're actually going somewhere else where there might be a castle in Orlando.
Well, I'm glad we finally got a chance to do a show because
it's only been 2 weeks, Shaun.
Well,
we missed 1 week.
There's been a lot of stuff.
There has been
happened.
A lot, yeah.
Oh my gosh! So it felt good to get it off our chest.
Well, we'll do it again. We'll do it again in 2 weeks. But we won't take that long. Maybe we'll find a way. Maybe there's some way we can do something while I'm in Orlando. I mean, not Orlando, while I'm in
Dallas.
Dallas. Yeah. Maybe there's some way we can do something next week, but it'll most likely be 2 weeks before we do a show again. But once again, he is at Shaun Bajani on Twitter and Instagram. I'm at Josh Beard Radio on Twitter and Tooth Pete on Instagram. You can follow along on youtube.com/Josh Beard for the show. We are the Wasted Talent, and we will catch you guys in a couple of weeks. And go Texans tomorrow. Yay!